We're back with the NAL. Second game of today, SSG against Cloud9. And from the looks of it, the vibes over at SSG are vibing. So hopefully we can see them replicate that on the server. Cloud9, however, last week, they still managed to bring it back. I think there was a little bit of back and forth. There were some answers to our questions, but it wasn't as smooth sailing as we expected it to be.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't a smooth sailing, but there is still stuff to take from it. I mean, we've talked about how Cloud9, they're going to need more reps, and these are the reps exactly that they need. And they need reps of being able to lose to be able to identify where those mistakes were, and I think they've been doing a good job so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's been showing the preparation on their end. They've obviously been having good outside of the server work, and obviously we just need to see it come into fruition a little bit more inside of the server.
Yeah, and also into fruition. I mean, the things that I definitely want to highlight with this team is they do a very good job at getting those opening kills and get those opening conversions, those opening kill conversions into a one round. And this is a thing when new teams, if they're able to get those opening kills and get those opening conversions, it's great. That's something that you want for a new roster, new developing roster, is that you're winning in that frag department, that you're starting off that advantage, because that makes it so much easier for the IGL to facilitate a round, to understand the dynamic of what needs to happen. But that's actually also somewhere where they are struggling on that front of with the kills is being able to trade off one another. They are one of the worst trade conversion teams. So you're doing the hard job of getting the opening kill and then turning that into a one round. But then on that other end, you can't seem to find your trades, which this is what's costing them these games. This is what's costing them rounds after rounds, is you're doing the hard job. Now it's just the easy job of just playing the man advantage, being able to play off one another. And this is what I want to see going forward, is if they can change that, if they just double up with someone. Or a big thing for me, when you are finding that success so early on, is just being able to allow yourself to breathe and slow down your takes, slow down your rotates into sight, figure out the best course of action and to move from there.
That's always the hardest part with teams, is the trading factor, especially when you're IGL. With the way Packer is playing on C9, he is that lurk IGL on attack. So it's very difficult for him to reel everybody in back into the basics, especially when they get an advantage. And that's something that, as a new team, you're going to have to learn, that sometimes it's okay to slow down. It's okay to stop and play off of your teammates.
But couldn't you argue, and you being a former IGL, if you have that man advantage, wouldn't that also make your life easier? Because you kind of have an idea of where a player now is taken and removed from, where they then have to position to?
It would make things so much easier as you're getting advantages, but it's really hard to keep track of your players because they get a pick. Your vision's only so limited. You don't know where they are, so you have to be able to reel them in, but at the same time, if you're on a lurk, it's harder to do so.
Yeah, they're going to go up against SSG, and this is a roster that has also proven what they're capable of, and if anything, they're not going to let Cloud9 get away with some of these sloppier mistakes.
Yeah, and for SSG, what was the biggest issue coming into the stage, coming in from Reload, was the entry problem. That was obviously SSG's biggest downfall, but they talked about changing roles to fit them as opposed to fitting Newers, and obviously it's worked tremendously for Ashen specifically. He's back on the entry. He is now the #1 leading player in the NAL on entries. SSG has the most amount of entries so far in the NAL, and obviously Ashen as a whole, he's the 4th best player currently in the NAL. So success for him is on all fronts. Everybody's been doing well on the team, but Ashen back into his comfortability has been showing.
And it goes to show, I mean, we talked about that hot and cold SSG that we talked about early in the stage, is if you have Ashen performing, I don't think we're going to see much of a hot and cold, because you know for a fact on your entry and in those gunfights that Ashen is going to take, he's going to do those successfully. So it is good to see that the team is finding some sort of system and bringing Ashen back into that spotlight. But even then, that's not where the issue has always lied within SSG.
Not at all, but an issue that specifically Newers has to deal with is the pressure. We talked about how the team is no longer accustomed just to him, it's to now the SSG, and he has to be fitting into it. All of that pressure on, will Newers be a bust or will he be the player that SSG wanted, is all riding on his shoulders. And of course, yes, he's been doing consistent. He was the best player in Reload. Yep. He's been doing great throughout the NAL, but I wouldn't say he's in a position to warrant exactly where Benja is right now. So because Newers is on that entry, Benja is now the worst player, probably his worst stage so far in the NAL since he flew over and joined SSG. Benja is having a very difficult performance. So obviously all that pressure is on Newers. Is Newers' performance worth Benja doing this bad? I don't know. But obviously if Newers can do that much better, he would be able to alleviate Benja's pressure on his shoulders, to be able to give him that much more time to be able to flex, figure out what it's like to be in this new role, what it's like to be a flex, and how to deal with this new bag of issues.
Yeah, and it also means that they're going to have to be able to replicate that on multiple maps. So far, we've seen them go to Cafe and Consulate, so we want to see something maybe a little bit different. But then again, we could go back to the same thing with OXG, where it's like, show as little maps as possible. So Lax, when it comes to the map veto, where do you think SSG has the highest chance?
You know, I could see it going back to, okay, I was going to say I could see it going back to a Consulate, but Cloud9 just wants to completely get rid away with it and go to Border. So this is an interesting one for me. I think this does benefit SSG far more just due to how Cloud9 is playing, because you're not going to be able to lurk around that Packer likes to do and trying to find that opening. You're really going to met with intense gunfight the second you try to enter the building, whether you're going top east, whether you're going through break, or whether you're trying to push through dome side. You're always going to be met with some formidable opponent there. So for that alone, it kind of makes me question what C9 has in store for them, because a lot of the plays and a lot of the strats have been based around Packer making that entry. But again, a lot of that lurk comes down to just areas being uncontested, where a lot of these maps and a lot of these power spots are going to be heavily contested through and through.
Obviously, Cloud9 going to a map like Border, that doesn't sit too well with me. I think SSG obviously has the edge. And for Cloud9, when we've been talking about how their preparation going into matches has been really good, they are very comfortable on maps like Nighthaven, Lair, you know, these big bank, these big roam clear-esque maps that SSG has clearly shown that they're not comfortable on. I mean, we've seen Consulate, Cafe, and now Border from SSG. Obviously, there's an issue on SSG's side of roam clearing and being able to clear those big maps. So if you're C9, obviously, I'd like to hope that they bring a whole different style of Cloud9 that we've seen into week 1, because we saw slow taking space. You can't do that on Border. You can't take space. You have to be ready to fight SSG head on. So we're going to need a statement game from Cloud9 if they want to be able to fit that Border playstyle.
So when it comes to the prediction then, in regards of which team is going to be able to take this one, Lax, considering the map?
To be fair, I chose Cloud9, but now seeing the maps, I'm going to have to go back to SSG.
No, because actually you picked Cloud9 and Fox, they picked SSG, and I like the fact that you guys are disagreeing.
Well,
so
that was before knowing what the maps were, right?
Okay.
And that was just based off performance.
I also heard that Jesse and Intero specifically are also going to pick SSG. I think Intero said that specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to go for SSG just for the simple reason that this isn't a map that you're going to be able to lurk around and find those openings. You have to create those openings. You have to create those gaps, and that's just where C9 hasn't really been excelling and thriving in. And SSG, I mean, they're a strong opponent on defense, so...
Well, guess what? I'm going to switch... No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, shout out to production as well for like literally switching it on the spot, but we're ready to head into our second game of today with Cloud9 against SSG. So, Jesse and Parker, get away.
I don't make predictions because I don't want to end up in last in a fantasy league when all of the people around me run circles around my abilities. But today, I mean, I guess Laxing does get the last laugh because of how Grixer performed in our very first matchup. We have a very competitive day of games here, Jesse, and Cloud9 versus Spacestation shouldn't disappoint on paper. Both of these teams find themselves towards the top of the standings or closer to the middle of the pack, depending on whether you're a glass half full or a glass half empty type of person. Cloud9 dead in the middle, ranked in 5th place, Spacestation in 4th place. They both had a win last week. SSG doing so quite comfortably over Team Cruelty with a 7-3 score before falling in overtime the very next day at the hands of Wildcard. Cloud9 started off by beating Wildcard in the first week before falling in regulation, in the final round of regulation, I should specify, to M80. Now, Cloud9 beat Wildcard, and then Wildcard beat SSG, which means that Cloud9 should win this match. That's just numbers and math and facts. I don't control any of these things. And Jesse, I'm sure you agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like everybody's saying my opinions for me today. Fox is making my pick. You are too. Listen, I'm excited for a good game, regardless of who comes out on top. I think for SSG, this is a real... it feels must-win almost for them, you know, because they played their week last week. They expect to be a top 4 in this region. They expect to always be competing at an international level. And then to go out and lose to a team like Wildcard, who don't have that same level of experience that SSG have, I think was a huge disappointment. If they lose to another team that, frankly, I think most people have kind of middle of the pack, right? Like Cloud9. It seems like a decent team. Most people don't have them top 4. Most people don't have them at the bottom. If SSG lose another game to a team that isn't considered to be one of the best in North America, there's going to be some real questions about what their roster is looking like, about how they are performing after dropping Forest and picking up Newers. it's going to be an awkward spot. And, you know, I think that's going to be something that weighs on their minds a little bit. On the side of Cloud9, I'm excited to see how they do. This is a really fiery team. I think they proved a lot of people wrong last week by getting that big win. So, yeah, it should be a good game, Parker. And to touch on the bans really quickly as well, we saw Deimos, Ying, Castle, and Azami taken off. Azami, a really common ban on this map to lock down East Stairs in particular. At Reload, we saw quite a bit of Azami smoke bans to hard focus that part of the map. Not going to be the case this time around. Jin, I know, will be playing East, and Ashen will be spawn peeking.
Almost gets away with it, as well as Packer takes quite a bit of damage, and you can see the look on his face is not one of appreciation and good vibes. And I mean, why would it be at that point? A little bit upset that you have SSG treating you the same way they treated Team Cruelty back in the very first match that they played of this stage. SSG is going to do this against most teams. You know, we talked about how when you disrespect a team, or when you think a team isn't up to your standings, you can disrespect them by going for that spawn peak. In this particular instance, I think with a team like SSG, it's not about disrespect. They think they're better than everybody, so they're going to approach every single team with the same hubris, if we could use that word, that they might, irrespective of their opinions of you. And well, after that early spawn peak, they've now gone back to normal, but we'll still swing some windows and check some doorways looking for early engagements still, and they'll find one. Ashen did most of the damage about 45 seconds ago. He'll do the remainder now and hit him with the drive-by. GN in the chat, not before Giddy can kill Fultz and answer right back.
Yeah, finishing the job. Now 4v4. A lot of Bs getting used by Giddy. I'm not sure if this is actually the execute. With this crossbow coming out, it likely will be. Bs giving him information on one player in the site, trying to find it on the side of Dream, but can't. There's a player right up next to him instead.
J90 down for the count. Ashen looking for more, and now this time staring towards the doorway in the A-bomb site as he's lost Newers on far remove. Now it's Benja coming to the rescue as he and Ashen will double up. This is a great start for Space Station as they got that first pick and then suffered through it. Both of these teams are so evenly matched that they should give us quite an exciting contest. Still plenty of time now for Cloud9 to find their footing through this round. Silent and Dream will be the two that they rest their hopes on. Dream, of course, holding that diffuser as what looked to be an office execute will still happen, this time from outside of the building. Silent cut down by Ashen after he opens up some of that wall, and now Dream's position will be given away by an Aaron Guzmant mine thrown out by Ashen over towards break room. Over in 90 as Dream makes a ton of noise. Benja prone to his left, Ashen staring through the door frame. And there's no way Dream's going to be able to hit both of these. At best, he walks away with one. He does. On to Benja, and Ashen trades him out with a 4K for Ashen to start off border.
That's got to be a confidence-inspiring round if you're Ashen. He's had a fantastic start to this stage. After not having the performance that he wanted, the desk has touched on it. We've kind of talked it to death, but obviously Reload, a horrible tournament for Ashen. They changed the roles around. Now he comes into this game and last week in a new position on SSG, and it's really been thriving. The only player in the North American League with a 100% cost through the first week, meaning he is finding impact in every single round. He's not the type of guy to get a lot of SRV points or to get a lot of plants down, so all of that cost is coming from either getting kills or if he does die early, getting traded as soon as he goes down. Beautiful 4K, and I think especially in that 2v2, pairing up with the other youngest member on SSG, playing it really nicely, playing a little conservatively. You saw how good that crossfire was inside a fountain, and it looks like textbook Siege coming out from Space Station with a little bit of aggression mixed in.
Never count SSG out as an organization, no matter the identity of their roster. They've never been a bottom feeder team. They've got a seemingly decent budget for players, and they typically know how to build these teams. Leadership right now for this current SSG squad is largely on the shoulders of Callout, and he's really built a system no matter where he's gone. We've sung his praises on quite the variety of teams that he's both played and coached, as people might forget that Callout used to be an active competitor before stepping back from the desk and onto the bench behind the players. Since then, whether his teams have won or lost, his current teammates, his former teammates, his current players, his former players, and even his opponents have all praised his ability Of course, even the best coach can't get the most out of players that are just not able to compete. Right now, Ashen is a competitor, Jesse. 5 kills in the opening pick in both rounds as Kobe is his victim here in round 2.
2 players of the same generation played some tier 3 together, and now once again meeting in tier 1. Ashen unstoppable on this top floor. It looked like Cloud9 were going for a full, just straight bottom floor take. They didn't have much pressure up above. They thought maybe we'll send a Dokkaebi up top to get something, but Ashen's been too good. Great little drone, not being spotted. Could open a free pick on the Benja, who the desk highlighted as having a weaker stage so far. The second drone will spot him out, and so it doesn't look like any cutoffs will happen to clear him. Very east-focused hold from the SSG. They've really stacked up above and inside the bomb site, as well as around waiting, which is where you saw a lot of those reinforcements getting used.
They got that first pick, and now they can sit back. We saw that when they failed on that first pick early in round number 1, SSG decided to take other ventures. This time, they can roam, but they still need to stay closer to the bomb site. A second body for Cloud9 will go cold. That's Dream. He was one of the last 2 players standing in round number 1. It'll be a bit of a shorter venture for him this time. Right now, most of the kills in the hands of Ashen. Benja with the other 2. That's it. 3 zeros across the board on SSG. One of them will break, 2 of them actually, and Ashen will get yet another kill, leaving just 1 player, J90, off of the kill sheet for Space Station. This looks like light work for the SSG guys as they're up 2-0.
And you can kind of see it. Once 1 player goes down on the side of Cloud9, the whole plan just seems to come to a halt, right? And with Ashen getting so aggressive on these defensive entries and putting the wrench into the plan so early for Cloud9, things are falling apart. Honestly, similar to what we saw from C9 last week, where they were extremely reliant on entries. They had just an 11% win rate when they didn't get the opening pick rate. That was worst in the league. Feels like they're really reliant on getting that first frag, making sure they have that early impact. And Ashen has, whether he's scoped that out or not ahead of time, recognized it as something he can really exploit. And now with this early play running out from the top floor in back-to-back rounds, he has taken that away from Cloud9. They need to be ready for Ashen's aggression. They have to shut it down. If they don't, this game could really start to spiral.
I'd worry here about with SSG running away with this. The one thing that I have to worry about with a team like Cloud9 is just their ability to hang tight. There are some players on the side of C9 who have had, if I can say it delicately, issues with confidence in very tough situations. Now, a playday number 3 is far from a do or die game for any organization and any team. But as we talked about in the broadcast last week, if you drop your first 3 games and then muscle through the remaining schedule, it might already be too late because of the matches you lost early on. For a team like Cloud9, for an organization that has expectations that are quite high of their teams, one of the biggest and most notorious and renowned organizations in all of esports, you know that these players have expectations on their shoulders that aren't just their own. There's organizational demands and requirements too, but the players themselves want to be winners. And the C9 team has been assembled from a variety of different rosters. So if the going gets tough, you worry about some of them that have a history of getting going in the wrong direction.
Top floor, obviously, always a factor. With this Glads and with the shield from Giddy as well, it looks like it might have been a direct into sight style push, but they have to deal with these players up top. Newer's in a good position to get a vertical denial on the plant if they try to rush it straight into vents. Another opening death. Again, it's Packer to go down. He's 0-3 here in this game against SSG. Hunting for the entry up above as well, but Kobe, he's just a little too nervous, not confident walking with the glass. I don't blame him, but they need to make something happen eventually, Parker.
Packer can't be the player dying early every single time. I mean, it's 2 of 3 rounds where Packer has not had much of an impact. Silent is also gone. That's yet another player held off the score sheet. Neither of them able to muster a kill against SSG, and there's still half the round to go. Cloud9 looked like Kobe was going to go down as well. Dream on the board. That's big for him this round. He finds his 2nd kill overall, as now it's Giddy hunted down inside of security. Kobe and Dream last 2 standing, and in the span of 20 seconds, Cloud9 has gone from 5 players down to just 2. Fultz has died, which means no more goo mines, but what remains will still be littered throughout the map. The remaining 4 players from SSG, all quite proficient. They'll go down by 1 now as Dream finds his 2nd kill. J90 hunted down. Ashen dies at the hands of Kobe, but J90 and Newers get the final 2 as 1 player on the side of C9 was downed. And we have seen another perfect rotation. 2 matches so far today, and 2 separate teams have gone 3 for 3 on this carousel of defense. Operator bands kicking in, and SSG right now seems indomitable.
I don't know if there's anything you can ban to make things better on Cloud9. I think they need attack timeout. We'll see if they get one after this. If Vivid takes the moment to talk to his team, they have a bit of a moment here, I suppose, to discuss things and also discuss what they want to remove. It will be the Ella. I mean, that's been the operator that Ashen's been running around with, so they clearly see him as a threat. But again, I don't think it's going to matter. This is not a situation where the operator's utility is the main cause of concern. It's just Ashen as a player. They will take that attack timeout. I'm glad to see it. They've got to be more unified on these pushes. You know, I understand Border's a tough map to push sometimes. It's very small, so the defenders have a lot of opportunities to go for these runouts, to go for these spawn peaks. Ashen's been abusing that. They've got to make sure they can at least trade things out. You can't stop Ashen from going for the runouts. You can't stop Ashen from going for these swings. And frankly, you could beat him on the swings, but Ash is a great player. That's much easier said than done. So at least make sure you're paired up so you can get some of those trades. Again, it's not easy on Border, top floor, when the defense is aggressive like that. Super tough to get a trade in, but they've got to find some way to equalize that man count every single round. It's been an early death from somebody on Cloud9 they didn't want to take. There's been no answer, and they've fallen straight flat right after that.
Well, I mean, for 3 of those rounds, it's basically been a 3v5. Cloud9 has seen very little production from both Packer and Silent, not just from a kills perspective, but from an intel perspective, from a gadgetry perspective. It's not been a great run for them. You know, it's one thing if you're 0-3, but you've got the diffuser, you're getting plants down, you're droning people in. But Packer died early in 2 of the 3 rounds and wasn't even able to use his gadget as far as I could see. Silent has survived a little bit longer across all 3 of those rounds, but also hasn't had a ton of impact from an intel or from a gadget perspective. I suspect things will change a little bit now as Silent will run that Finca, so the Adrenal Surge can be used globally as the operator has access to a global gadget. And if anybody on the side of C9 gets involved in an early engagement, Silent can hit that panic button to try to salvage whatever fight might be going wrong on the side of Cloud9. As for Packer, if you're worried about getting spawn peaked, bringing a shield in the hands of Blackbeard is not necessarily a bad idea.
I think it'll once again be Silent or Packer getting into gunfights early. They've got to be able to come out on top of it. Supposedly, with this team, Kobilax is the primary entry player, but last week it was Silent and Packer combined who took the majority of entry engagements on the attack. We're able to win it a lot more commonly than what we're seeing in this game. So they've had success in the early round in the past with Silent playing a whole a whole range of operators and Packer playing a lot of shields. They have been able to convert those rounds against other teams. But I just think with you're going against Ashen, you're playing on Border, it's a different ball game. And so hopefully they've been able to address that a little bit in the attack timeout. Maybe part of that response will just be Kobe going over to the Nomad, right? If you got a lot of problems with guys running out at you, the Nomad can turn that run out from a death into an instant free kill. So I think that's the idea from Kobe. But after the attack timeout, I mean, it's been reined in a little bit. There was a brief run out, but doesn't look like SSG are going to hard commit with Nomad now being brought.
Right, I mean, if Cloud9's calling the timeout, SSG gets to talk to Callout as well. And if he says, bring it in, rein it in, be a bit more conservative, why not? J9O with the very first kill, Silent on that Finca dies first. Giddy will join him shortly thereafter as J9O is finally brought to heal. But again, Silent's contributions in this game are non-existent. If he was still alive, Kobilax, who's currently down but not out, could be brought back immediately from that Adrenal Surge. Instead, Dream will have to reposition, and Kobilax, Packer, and Dream, the 3 remaining players for Cloud9, are all still outside the building with 1:20 on the clock. All right now at that break room door, lining up over towards the stairs. And, well, Benja had a good read on that. Packer looked at him, but you have to be a little bit apprehensive. Instead, the gun will come out from Packer. Dream is dropped by Benja, who's on the run. Fultz gets him in the cross, and Kobilax, who'd been brought back from the dead, is all that remains for C9 temporarily, of course, because SSG will quickly strike right back, and they're up 4-0. Timeout or no timeout. Cloud9 barely mustering a better effort on that round.
I don't know what to say, Parker. This feels like the fastest game of the NA League so far. They need to find some answer on Cloud9. I like that they were able to clear out that East Stairs position. You know, they found that pick on a Jane. I know that should have given them some map control, but then Benja retakes the position, even though they see Benja, right? They don't get caught off guard by the timing. They catch him on the Blackbeard. They see him go downstairs. He's still able to work a pick despite full information on his positioning. Whether this is Cloud9 just not able to hit their shots on players that they know the positions of, whether that communication isn't going forward with Cloud9, you know, it's hard to tell from our POV not being inside the team comms, but it's clear that there's some kind of disconnect happening on Cloud9. They know what SSG are doing. This is not a surprise. It's been a similar game plan every round from Spacestation. They should be able to find the answers to it too. I like the idea of going to the Nomad, but it's not making any difference in this game. You highlighted it. Silent's got to be better in these early rounds. Packer as well. They need to get on the board. Packer IGL, kind of a flex player, so you don't necessarily need him fragging out. But when he's playing the Blackbeard, he's got to be at least getting some kills for his teammates. Got one for getting that last round. But again, I mean, what was it for? There was no follow-through.
There's a lot to talk about with this Cloud9 team. I'm almost certain our analysts right now are writing feverishly with their pens or pencils. Or their fingers are tapping their phones and tablets so fast they're literally smoking. Not much to write home for about Cloud9 right now. This team far from being on Cloud9 with the way that they've played. I will say some progress here. I don't mean this negatively, but they've made it inside the building without a single member of Cloud9 being gunned down yet.
Still time. There you go.
Oh, Kitty gets out of the building, but unfortunately the bar is a little low at this moment, Jesse.
Yeah, another opening death. That's every single round now. SSG have led with the first frag. Silent hoping to get on the board, but looks like he's just pushing. He's got the Doki behind him. Again, going for a two-player push, getting a trade, even if you lose the fight, that's what needs to be the solution. That mirror window in the hallway is going to cause some problems. Maybe force Kobe to just hit Armory. There is a player up there. I believe it's Benja playing solo on the top floor. Maybe going to engage with Kobe, but Ashen's honestly not too far back.
Just waiting, the standoff that's happening right now. I mean, if you're Cloud9, you have to be patient. Nothing has worked up to this point. Kobe Lax pulling out the sidearm, finding Benja and Ashen immediately. Two very fast kills. Pendulum swings now over in the direction of the blue team. Cloud9, as they hold an advantage by one. Still over a minute to go, but this is a confident round. Both Packer and Silent still searching for their first kills. You have to imagine they will break those goose eggs if Cloud9 wins the round. As for SSG, they've still got some tricks up their sleeves, but no explosives. All nitro cells have been used, so SSG will have to go at this head on.
Got good long angles, though. This is not going to be an easy plant. If they try to go just inside of Tellers, I mean, it's going to be really tough with long angles being held by Newers from Customs. It's not a good plant. They've got Packer, maybe with the shield on his back, could get something done. And if they push deep into Bathroom, there's an opportunity there as well. But it doesn't seem like with their current positioning, that's going to be the game plan. I still like where SSG is playing at the moment. This is absolutely in their hands.
Kobe is tearing through all of that wall to try and get a better line of sight now over towards this bomb site down below. They'll jostle the diffuser, and into the hands of Packer it will go. Have to watch that drop. Packer will drop. J90's attention is elsewhere. Fultz taking down Dreen, and amidst the smoke, J90 just can't see it. Kobe Lax taking some damage. Fultz vaults over, and Newers is the only one still standing. Finished off by Silent as Newers goes for the rodeo. Diffuser gets planted, and he has to contend with the Blackbeard of Packer. My premonition was correct. Silent gets a single kill. Nade goes out. Newers isolated from his spot, and Packer also gets on the board. The two donuts on the side of C9 gobbled up as Packer and Silent find their first kills en route to Cloud9, finding their first round.
Listen, the reasons I said I didn't like that push is because they didn't have the defuse kit in the hands of Packer. It was being held by a Dream, and they were posturing up to push into Archives, which would have enabled them to go down to those long angles. They solved both those problems. I think they recognized the same thing that I was talking about. Hey, we don't have control of Customs. We can't go for a plant this way. A DMR being held by Newers is going to shut us down. Let's rotate to Bathroom. Let's put the defuse kit in the hands of our shield player, so it's much more difficult to deny that plant. They got into a good position. Packer held F, got it on the ground. At the same time, the top floor players were able to find a couple of kills. and everything lined up well. So I liked that a lot better for Cloud9. When they had that man advantage, when they had the time on their side, they were able to problem solve. They understood what SSG were doing on the defense. They put the pieces together. They made it happen. Obviously comes off of some really nice entry play from Kobe. Up inside of lockers, I'm not sure he knew that Benja was there, but Benja and Ashen kind of line up. He hits both heads in one single mag, and sometimes you just got to take that as a Siege player, you know? And so for Kobe to be able to find those and convert it into a round win is really massive for Cloud9, especially on the momentum front.
Just as we saw from the matchup that started this broadcast, one round can be the beginning of a triumphant comeback. I mean, I'm not going to spoil what happened in that very first match, but good things can happen when you win a single round. And again, sounds cliche because it kind of is, but all comebacks start with the first round victory. Cloud9 is there. It was a confidence-inspiring round. Admittedly, got a little bit closer than I'm sure C9 would hope. Now they have to tackle the very final attack before they can move to be defenders themselves. Border is a map that is technically defender-sided, but is quite unpredictable. It's chaotic. You talked about it earlier. It's a small map. There's a lot of avenues for you to get to the bomb site, and that can actually benefit attackers more than most of the bigger maps in the map pool.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Attackers can take a lot of fights without having to enter the building, which means they can kind of dodge util a lot of the time, so they would like to get at least a second. We are onto East Stairs now. Packer taking no time. He sees J9O, who's sprinting away from him, but can he get out? No, he can't. Nice little cutoff from Dream outside the building. Found the angle to clean up smoke. So that's going to be a very nice opening pick. The second they've gotten so far. First one they were able to convert. The second one's looking that way too.
Great attempt there on the Packer from Ashen long range, seeing the beat of Blitz all the way by the staircase. A reactive Adrenal Surge will come in from Silent. This was the assumption that we had when he brought the Finka a couple rounds ago, and it will give a bit more staying power to both Giddy and Packer, who'd taken their lumps not long before. Silent's used all three of his Adrenal Surges with well over a minute left into the round. That's not great timing. Kobe Lax collapsing onto Ashen in the follow-up as well. That SMG-12 in his hands really sings. 2Ks in a row, as now it's the retreat from Newers. Packer breathing down his neck as Newers has no choice but to vacate the premises. Packer finished off by Benja, and there's a shotgun in the hands of Benja, who had some poor stats heading into this matchup. He's having a great game so far, but he's shut down by Silent, and Cloud9 will stitch 2 rounds together.
100% conversion for both teams on those entries. Really felt like that was the story for both of them. Once Cloud9 were able to get their feet underneath them, they were able to put together some attacks. A lot of that coming off of Kobe, of course, playing on that Dokkaebi, the sidearm proving so valuable for him. And it's not an operator we saw Kobe bring even once last week. He did play it a decent bit, if my memory is correct, on Dark Zero, but still nice to see him popping off with a bit of a new operator on his part. Azami getting banned for the second time immediately. Do they pair it with the smoke, or do they go for the castle like we saw previously? How about neither? It's going to be a Fenrir banned out for the second op on defense, and then Ying Monty for the attackers will get removed. Kind of like Border as a map because you do see such a wide variety in operator bans. Just because there's no super strong operator, super strong position that you see. The closest is probably Azami, which is why we see her banned so often. But teams generally have a lot of creativity on what they want to ban on this map.
Absolutely. And I mean, you've got your options. You'll get rid of these two, again, nuisance operators, as we often refer to them as. I got asked a couple days ago when the term nuisance operator started to get used. And I can't remember the exact time I heard it for the first time. We used it internally, but never on the broadcast because, frankly, we've struggled. I don't know about you, but I have struggled to talk about certain annoying operators like Solus, like Fenrir, like Dokkaebi, like Lion, where they are extremely troubling and sometimes smothering operators. I think the first time I heard it was when Gezichu used it on a broadcast, and I was like, well, if Gary is comfortable using it, then I might as well be too. And if we both go down, then we both go down, you know, and apparently it was well received. So that's why nuisance operators is now used. They're just operators that are designed to get under your skin. Ying is a great nuisance operator. Blitz can be a great nuisance operator. Lesion, quite literally, is goo mines get under your skin, as far as I'm aware, but I'm no goologist. So that's why we use that term. 2 of them will be taken out in both Azami and Fenrir, so SSG will disallow Cloud9 from using them.
I believe the term kind of rose alongside the nuisance caster term, which is what we used to refer to you in the green room, Parker, behind your back. Still, this is going to be one of those rounds that Cloud9, if they can start to convert on the defense, this game looks all the more winnable. SSG have quickly taken control of East Stairs. Didn't look like anybody on Cloud9 was trying to hold it. They didn't bring that smoke. Of course, a zombie banned out, so it gets a lot tougher to hold East at that point. Given up for free for SSG now as they start to clear this out. It's going to open a path if they want to clear through offices, and they could push that direction. It's a little bit less common for what you see on this bomb site, but it's absolutely still viable. If that's the case, Giddy will be the first one to engage, and you can see he's already hunting for this opening pick.
He's looking for it. Cloud9 have struggled to strike first, but Kobe Lax has put up a 2K in almost every round he's been on the board. He's got 9 kills to his name. That's all he'll get for the time being, as it's Fultz's turn to get a 2K. J90 follows up and clears out office, leaving Packer sitting inside of small office, wondering where the hell his team went. He'll have some time to reflect on that in the afterlife as Newer sweeps through, and SSG goes back to their winning ways after a successful first execute.
Old dogs on SSG still got it in them. Big round from Fultz and J90. Not the players you usually talk about, the support duo on Spacestation. But what everybody else was able to do in that round was start to make Cloud9 move. You know, they had a lot of guys over towards Fountain, a lot of guys over towards Office. And once those players started to get some picks and started to realize the pressure that was on them, they started to sprint away. You saw that when we got J90's POV. Players just sprinting past his angles. And so he's the guy holding the cut. He's the guy watching for those rotations. He's the guy who's going to be able to hit those shots and clean them up. So really nicely done from J9 and also from Fultz. Weren't necessarily the initiators, as they never really are on this team, but positioning themselves in perfect spots, being able to hit those shots when the opportunity presents itself to them. That is exactly what it means to be a good support player, and just some brilliant duels from Jack to be able to win those gunfights.
J90 is a very underrated player on his role, and I go out of my way to talk about J90 regularly because I think part of our job is to highlight the players that don't necessarily get the biggest and brightest spotlights. And if you're on a team like Space Station, a team that has won a world championship, that's won that hammer, and there are players like Ashen, like Newers, like Benjamaster, even a player like Fultz has a world champion himself, gets a big spotlight, J90 tends to get a little bit overshadowed. So let's talk about him, and let's talk about his contributions. This round, they're going to need a little bit more out of him and the other 3 players that are still alive, as Newers is picked off within the first 20 seconds, and C9 finds themselves in a very good spot. Oh my goodness! Silent will collect over towards break room, hoping for a 4th by Office, failing at it, and it's the aforementioned J90 to get the pick, the only pick for Space Station. There's 2 minutes and 15 seconds left in this round, and there are 4 players dead.
Diffuse kit all the way across the map. Neither Benja nor J9 have access to it, so they're going to have to waste some time if they want to go pick it up. Thankfully, they've got time to spare. Over 2 minutes still in this round, and the bomb site pretty close to them, but that kit being played up top, not sure if it's being heavily defended by Cloud9. At the moment, they're not concerned with it. They're looking into customs. They're trying to find this pick on the Dream. They know where he is, but he's not exposing himself at the moment. And just going to give up, maybe try to find another angle. Cloud9 have gotten aggressive for those opening picks. It was nice moves by Silent. Now they've just decided to sit tight. Smoky arrows being used really early for the push. There's the pick on a Dream.
These numbers narrow very quickly. 40 seconds from that brief standstill, but Packer caught Benja running, and that's just a bit of an issue for SSG. J90 picks up his 2nd, 3rd to be had, but the Nitro Cell is there, and what a scare that could have been for C9. SSG knocking on the door of match point, but they get up to the steps before changing their minds. C9 wins 1 round, and that gap goes back to where it was at the end of the first half.
So the Dream was almost shattered by J90, but I mean, it started off with some really big swings from Silent. He saw what Ashen did in the first quarter of this game and said, you know what, 2 can play at this game. Started to swing out from break room, swing out around security, get those opening picks, and of course, even onto the guy that was demonizing Cloud9 in that first half with the exact same tactics. So I think you've got to give a lot of credit to Silent in that round for starting things off so strongly for C9. he had a really rough start to this game, and that would be concerning for Cloud9 because he has been their most consistent player since assembling this roster. He's the only person that went positive in both games, dropping 13 kills even in their loss against M80 last week. So he has historically been the person that Cloud9 can rely on even in the tough matches. The fact that he went quiet through the first couple rounds of this game was not helpful to Cloud9. Now he seems to have woken up. Once he can control the pace of things on the defense, it feels like he's more in his element. So that's really been massive to make things go a little bit smoother for Cloud9.
Expected this to be a close match, and so far it has lived up to its billing now because of the final 3-ish, 4 rounds that we've watched. SSG could still run away with this and win 7-3 in whatever closeness that we thought would be a fleeting thought at best. But Cloud9 was a better team than those first 4 rounds that we witnessed. Again, it's all about establishing momentum early and setting a tempo for the game that your opponents might not be able to match. We talked about it in our very first game of the day when we saw an early roam that seemed to knock them off stride back on Clubhouse, if people recall, where it was OXG catching Envy flat-footed. Now it looked like SSG managed to get under Cloud9's skin, and it took some rounds for Cloud9 to find their own footing, but they're on much more stable ground, and they'll be riding out the remainder of regulation as defenders. Missed opportunity for Kobe as we've now gone past the first minute of action, and everybody still has their head.
Yeah, you see the hesitation in SSG after what Silent did last round. They're taking a lot of time to get into the building. They're holding angles instead of rushing in, and Silent's not even upstairs. He's the sole anchor on this push, playing smoke in sight. J9O does find an opening on a Dream, though, the traditional anchor on this team of Cloud9, so that'll be a big opener. Trying to work more now as Kobe starts to get pushed out with the Deimos.
Dream, first one to die again on his role. He should be one of the last players to die, but was playing more of a forefront role for Cloud9 on these defender rounds. Now SSG will pick apart this top floor and assess their options. So much of an investment from Cloud9 has come towards that break area over onto the mezzanine that you have to wait if you're SSG to clear it out. Drone it again. J9O has been phenomenal in this position. He's picked up 5 kills from Office/Fountain in the last 2 rounds. Now, mind you, in the previous round, those 3 kills were not particularly impactful, but J9O, who was at a paltry 5-5 at one point, or a 5-4, is now leading the team with 12 kills. Kobe on the board for Cloud9, as that's the very first time C9 has drawn blood. Now Kobe breaking double digits as J9O picks up yet another, and Newers gets the exit kill that secures match point for Spacestation.
Huge game so far from J9O. Was actually negative through the first week, but has really shown up in this game against Cloud9. Grew up in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, which is a name I had to practice about 100 times before getting the pronunciation right. We actually met his folks in Boston, you and I, Parker. They were really nice people. They said they often watched the games. They did, Parker. So
that's why look, that's how easy it is for me to... Look, if your family comes to a live event and buys me a drink at a bar, I will hype up your child on the broadcast as much as humanly possible. So huge shout out to Jack's family for doing that.
Yeah, shout out to the Bricard family, who I'm sure are watching at this point and are feeling very good about this game. Not only because their son is performing absolutely fantastic, MVP of the match in my opinion, but also because SSG have just pushed this game to match points. They need just 1 attack through 3 rounds on Border, which historically has been one of the easier maps to attack inside of Siege. Again, J9O is not that type of player who's going to go in and get the entries, who's going to force the issue, but he's always well positioned to have that cutoff to make sure that he's taking advantage of the movements his teammates are forcing, and he's doing that so perfectly on a map like Border.
Border, of course, a map that is oftentimes affectionately referred to as Hell in a Cell because it is a very claustrophobic map. There are opportunities to rotate. There are, very strong hatches that you can commandeer, as we see C9 right now opening one of them up inside of security and then sealing the other one not too far removed from it. And then, of course, you've got that whole lobby area where you can go for a quick jump over just down in the waiting room to the bottom right of your screen, just off camera. Thanks to the observers for showing off what I was talking about, by the way. But it does tend to be quite a constricting map, and there are an awful lot of hard walls that you cannot shoot through, you cannot blow open, nothing like that. So you're trapped in there. You're trapped in there with yourself, you're trapped in there with your teammates, and it can get quite claustrophobic very quickly.
Do Cloud9 go aggressive is the big question. Obviously, they were able to find a round off that because of Silent's play. Silent is in security. This is the aggressive position where he likes to play, but he's not swinging the windows. He's not jumping out doorways, okay? He's seemingly happy just to sit in behind his deployable shield, which he's set up inside of security. Newer's on this buck down below. This used to be a really common position. We'd see players go down with nades back when you could vertical nade players from below. That's no longer a feature in Siege, as you cannot cook grenades, but with the buck, you can still make some movements happen on the side of that security player, and I think that's going to be the goal from Newers. Combine that with the Capital Bolts of Vengeance, they got a recipe for success.
Silent gets the very first pick. He's been under the microscope, but has amassed very quietly 6 kills to his name, which again, on his role, is something that he is expected to do. Somebody like Packer starting off slow is not ideal, but it's not integral for his team that he gets kills. Silent, on the other hand, he's one of the guys that you expect to frag well. He, alongside Kobe-Lax with a little bit of Giddy, those are the 3 players you should expect to be towards the top of the standings on Cloud9. Doesn't always come to pass. Dream is not somebody who should be getting kills either, but he tends to do just that. Kobe on the board, SSG just completely being torn to shreds. Kobe with his second and a third from Kobe as a flawless round pops off. Cloud9 answering back, and they've got 4 rounds to their name. The gap is shrinking. SSG, though, still in the lead.
A good round from Cloud9. I kind of cursed him a little bit there. I hyped up how Newers on the buck was going to be able to clear Silent out of security and then immediately lost that gunfight on the vertical angle. So tough one there, but it happens from time to time. And you got to give credit to Cloud9 stepping up, understanding where they were receiving pressure. It was Silent in the early round for the opening pick. There's the play there. And then it was Kobe-Lax in that mid round who was making the swings happen, seemed to know exactly where SSG were pushing from. You talk about Kobe-Lax, this guy feels like an experienced player. You know, he's been to 3 international events. It's very easy to forget that he's been a pro player less than a year, and this is still only his 2nd stage of the North America League. So Kobe's still very much a young player. He's still very much growing as an individual, and while his time on Dark Zero maybe didn't put up the results that he wanted, I'm sure he learned a lot playing with one of the best teams inside of North America. Now he's able to bring that to a team like Cloud9, and it's really good to see him being a big performer for this squad, especially in that more aggressive role where people thought he would be able to perform on DC.
5 seconds remaining.
This is it's a very important matchup for both of these teams. Tomorrow, both of them will be in action yet again. Cloud9 will be in our 2nd match of the day, and they'll have their hands full against Dark Zero, a team that starts off today's show and played a tied in 1st place with M80. It'll be an intriguing match to watch. That will actually not be casted by us. We have so far been in the driver's seat and on the mic for all of the NA League up to this point. It'll be Lynx at XR Troika making their Tier 1 debut as a duo. As far as I'm aware, I mean, they are welcome to correct me if I'm wrong, as they are now working together and will be taking you on for the action on the 20th. As for SSG, they're in the very next game after that DZ Cloud9 game tomorrow, and SSG will be up against Envy. We talked a little bit in the Envy match just about an hour ago about how Envy has a very tough start to the season. SSG is going to be no slouch, and Envy will have 2 rough back-to-back games on paper, but we'll see if Envy can put up a Shopify Rebellion performance or if they will put up an M80 performance against SSG. Either way, SSG looking to maintain the lead they have in the standings over Cloud9, and if they get 3 points, they could vault towards the top of the NA League standings today.
Mira plus Aruni, a strong combo from Cloud9. They've liked to start opening those Mira windows with the ace, but the Aruni kind of prevents that. They don't have a Twitch or anything to pop those windows from behind, so this has been a bit of a puzzle that SSG haven't done a great job of clearing out so far. A lot of that util still exists. We see the 2nd window here being played by Kobe, and again, it's not an Aruni gate this time, it's a Bandit battery, protecting them from those ace charges. So very thoughtful defense from Cloud9, and maybe not one that SSG brought the correct tools for. Because of that, they haven't really been able to clear top floor, and that means it's 5v5 with 70 seconds to go. A rare situation for Border.
One of the slower rounds that we've seen. And it looks like it'll be a bathroom/backside take in through workshop. Silent on the roam upstairs, caught out by Ash, and he had his back turned to him. And just like that, SSG has possession of the bomb site. Fultz will get that diffuser to the halfway point, and now it's full as Newers and Ashen on the board. Everybody from SSG getting in on the action. Packer has to turn his attention away as Benja falls right at the moment that Packer would have been sideswiped. Now he retakes from above, but SSG has not given up control of it. Ashen thought he got the flash, but no, he still gets the kill. But onto a target with the ability to see his opponent. Space Station were blasting off to quite the lead. Cloud9 brought them back down to earth, but at the end of the day, it's SSG taking it home and winning in regulation, picking up 3 big points.
Tough one to lose if you're Cloud9. That top floor hold really strong. Doesn't matter though, if SSG completely ignore it and go hit the bottom floor, that's where the bomb site was. So I think a game you can learn from if you're Cloud9 at that slow start. While they did recover from it eventually, wasn't quite fast enough, and they will fall to Space Station. A good bounce back after last week's 1-1 performance.
And SSG taking those 3 points will now have sole possession of first overall, pushing down Dark Zero, M80, and OXG. But still, 3 more matches to go, not quite at the halfway point. We'll be back with more of the NA League in a few minutes.
A 7-4 game for SSG, taking out Cloud9, even though we had a couple of hopes, I guess, for C9 specifically. I thought it was going to be at least a little bit closer than what we just saw.
Well, when you saw one defensive half from SSG, it looked really solid. It looked very strong. Then you look at the other end of it of Cloud9, where it didn't really look necessarily strong. It was them just taking every possible gunfight. It almost looked like a ranked game, which when we get to that interview, I am going to ask that question.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult for you on Cloud9 with the passive team that they really have. I mean, it's really difficult you have to pretty much spread out around border on attack. You have to be able to find your openings, find your entries. And SSG, they were running a really good game plan of just not letting Cloud9 into the building, constant east pressure, constant hold on the break door, always holding CC. There wasn't really an opening C9 had to ever take. C9 had to fight for it, and that's where I think we both agree C9 just couldn't fight for it. They didn't have the tools to be able to get in through that door.
Yeah, and the blacklight detail is going to be going to J90. Great performance from him as well on this game specifically. But all in all, when you're looking at SSG, I feel like they cleaned up a lot of the question marks that we had around.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they look like a far better team in this situation, but I also want to give that credit to Cloud9 not really playing that well compared to what we were talking about, that they just need more reps. I think they really gave a lot of these gunfights to SSG. Not saying SSG didn't do the prep, didn't put the work, but when you look at Cloud9 from last week versus Cloud9 today, it looked like an entirely different team that just dropped the strats, dropped the holds that they wanted to do, and just more so forced engagements. When you know a team like SSG will take you at that forefront for those engagements, which is a huge reason why we even see J90 at the top performer for SSG.
Yeah, I mean, the defenses from SSG is where they won it. Like I said, they were just constantly holding all the extremities. They had a really good lockdown, and that was a decisive win from SSG. That's exactly what we wanted to see to start out going into week 2. If we can see the same similar outcome happen tomorrow, I think that would leave SSG in a better position to where they would feel comfortable going into week 2, because it's like we saw week 1, it was kind of shaky. We want a little bit more consistency.
Yeah.
Today was a great start from SSG, very consistent.
Yeah, and we have Fultz as well ready for the interview. So first off, congratulations on the win here. But the question really is, what have the last couple of days for the side of SSG looked like when it comes to polishing up some of the issues that we've seen during week 1?
Last week was really our only focus was to just stay in sync. I kind of mentioned it last interview, but just stay in sync, make sure we're all doing the same thing, because our wildcard game last week, we had a couple rounds where we slipped up on that. We kind of just started doing our own things, and that's really been the main thing we've been hammering this week, is just doing everything together and doing it, quick, decisively, whatever the case.
For sure. Fultz, I want to ask you, just in your own opinion, were you a little surprised, one, that they decided on Clubhouse, and then two, when you guys switched to the attacking half, how they were playing defense? Did it kind of feel like a ranked match? Because at least from watching, it seemed like they weren't really trying to problem solve or stop you guys. It was more just send everybody towards you, and that was really kind of the thought process.
Yeah, I think they lost round 1 and they just like said we're gonna fight these guys. That's kind of like how I took it or how I felt, and then it worked. Like the immediate round after that first round, I think sounded like got like a 3K just cheesing us like off the rip, and then they were like, okay, this is the only way we can beat them, and then they just stuck with it, I think. But yeah, fighting our roster head on is dangerous.
Right.
So
Yeah, not really a good idea. And I mean, maybe you can talk a little bit about it from the theme we've been seeing so far. We've watched you guys play Consulate, Cafe, and Border, all really small, defender-sided maps, claustrophobic, hard to get into. Is there a reason why those maps are always coming up for you guys? Maybe, I don't want to say you guys are avoiding the big maps, but is there a reason specifically that the smaller ones are more around your guys' play styles?
I think it fits just our style because we can play more split and like abuse our kind of like playmaking skills on those types of maps, where like the bigger maps you see more of like the team clears, the executes, that type of stuff, which we're still really good at. But even like since I've been on SSG for like the last 2 years, like Cons, Cafe, Border we've always been good at it. So it's kind of just, I think we understand it very well.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time for the interview. Congratulations once again on your win, and we're going to see you around. Good luck for tomorrow.
All right. Thank you guys. See you.
Bye. All right.
Well, I'm glad, that he felt that it kind of did feel like ranked, that the second that they lost like a proper
Oh, you
setup.
just like being proven right?
Well, no, it's more so that, I am watching the same game that he is playing, and that is the general
that kind
consensus.
of is like what is happening.
But that's what I'm saying, though. The general consensus is that they were playing ranked, that he didn't really feel that they were trying to adapt or improve. It was really just send body after body, which that was very clear in just watching this game, that it didn't seem like they wanted to fall back on any basic fundamentals outside of just take a gunfight. And like you said, they're not a roster that you want to take gunfights to.
Yeah, and also a little bit of a reminder for you guys at home, Element is open for sign up. So it's the path that we've been talking about a little bit here on the broadcast over the last couple of days. Actually quite a lot when it comes to from tier 2 going in tier 1, and you got to start somewhere. So Element's a great place to do so.
No, absolutely. I mean, the man on the screen is Giddy, currently in the league. And obviously T2 is the way that you get involved.
Try and be serious.
Yeah, obviously.
I know it's hard.
It's the way that you get into it. He's joined up on LFO, but the thing is he was playing on a plethora of teams, and LFO was a team that noticed him and ended up picking him up. So obviously you don't just get the benefit of being able to qualify into the NAL. You can also get scouted out by other NAL teams that think you got what it takes, and obviously it's a great place for you to develop as a player.
Yeah, it puts your face on the map, it puts your name out there, and not just Giddy, but even for a player like JJ Blast. I mean, we just did a whole intro on him. So, I mean, that could easily be you if you just join Element 5, qualify for it, play through it, get noticed, join a T1 team. Next to know, you could be doing a documentary on yourself.
And then like the small print is you have to be good at the game.
Could be me.
Could it be you?
Could be me.
You do that.
I would never play a T2 qualifier.
Why not?
I was T1 my entire career.
So you think you're better than Giddy?
All right,
think you're better
didn't you
than
play
them?
Element last year?
I did play Element, yeah.
Bum!
I played a game, like a match.
Okay, either way, whilst these two are bickering it out, we're gonna let you guys go for a little bit of a break because we have Shopify going up against Wildcard. Both of these teams are really looking to prove themselves. Wildcard had a little bit of a comeback last week, and Shopify is looking solid all around, so make sure you stick around because we'll be right back.